Hello everyone, AlphaSoul here and welcome to another video. Today we're going to go ahead and cover the August 28th, or my thoughts on the August 28th live stream from Intrepid Studios for Ashes of Creation. Now, this live stream was pretty interesting in that there were a couple things that I really wanted to talk about, and more specifically, I felt vindicated from a lot of the things that were actually said within the live stream. So without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Now, generally speaking, there was some good information that I'd like to hear. One was the shifting of the studio move. The studio move is not happening for Intrepid Studios this fall. They're going to do it early next year, and I think that'll be better. The reasoning that was given was it'll allow the teams to kind of focus on bringing Alpha 1, which is slated to happen this year. So that was good news in my opinion. I think that's the right move. Obviously, I don't have further knowledge from there, but it did feel like a good move. The second thing that was very interesting is the fact that they're hiring so many people so quickly. I think earlier on they had mentioned there was something like 24 or 30, I forgot what the exact count was, open positions that they were trying to hire for and fill for. And so anytime that I saw it on my LinkedIn, I forwarded along, a message or, send it a like, do what I could to try and, help get some visibility into it. And shockingly enough to me, I think they said it was 18 out of 24. I forgot the exact number, but it was pretty high for how much they had filled of the positions. And that's a really good thing. That means that all those critical positions that they need, they'll be able to start, getting stuff out quicker, and more specifically, it could potentially translate out to a shorter dev time now that they've got these critical or posts in mind. So I think that was very good. Now, on to the main portion that they really dropped in this, and that was the action combat. Now, earlier I mentioned that I felt vindicated from this, and I got to tell you, I do feel, just because I had tried in a couple of videos explaining what the system was like in terms of, what Ashes of Creation or what Intrepid was going for as far as like the skill system and the action combat system, etc., and what was currently in the system then, or currently in the system now. Now, the way that it's been described, and I have played this, so I can, attest this is the way that it is if you press a key, I think it's the Z key, it'll toggle between action mode versus tab target mode, right? And in action mode, you can direct your swings. You actually have to, there's no auto attack within Ashes of Creation. You actually have to click your mouse button, or I forgot if it's the mouse button or an actual key, but you actually have to click a button in order to attack, right? And so it's not, that auto attack type mode. So it allows for you to, free aim and hit multiple targets at once if your weapon is big enough. And that's the way that the system kind of works right now. Now, this is let me start off by saying, and they said this earlier as well too, and I've said this repeatedly, this is an early iteration of what the system is, right? Or what the system will potentially going to be. They've always said that they will be testing the system out, getting feedback, seeing how it feels, and kind of moving on from this. In fact, the whole toggle system was new from a previous iteration that they had kind of mentioned that they were going for. So even this is new. The system, to me, as it stands right now, does not feel good, right? And what I mean by does not feel good is it's not like it's a bad system or anything like that, but I mean, it doesn't feel good enough to me that it feels like an actual choice between what you're choosing, right? So some of my comments previously had been around the lines of, well, if you have a toggle and you're trying to choose between one or the other, if you're choosing action, there needs to be a reason why you're choosing action over tab, because tab, obviously, it's easier, right? You just tab over basically, and you acquire your target, point and click type thing, right? Whereas with action, you have to aim your reticle, you have to, there's more dexterity involved within that system, right? So I've always kind of been looking at the two and basically saying, okay, well, if this is how it's going to be, there's going to need to be some changes here. Now, I'm not filled with much confidence on the hybrid system right now. This is probably the system that I'm most skeptical about within Ashes of Creation, and it's only because of this. I want you to look at it from my point of view. let's take New World, for example. A ton of people are playing New World. I played it over. Again, I've mentioned that I will not officially comment on it because I work for Amazon. I don't work for Amazon Game Studios, but I work for Amazon, and it's just a conflict of interest. Can't go there, right? But let's look at New World, for example. In New World, the combat revolves around an action combat system, and even in New World, it's not perfect, right? I've seen, some, people complain about the system. There are some flaws within it, and I'll be free to talk about that later. But that's not the point of this video. The point of that is, even with a system that is focused in on action combat, it's very hard to get right? It's very hard to make it feel right. And when you have a hybrid system, that's even more difficult, in my opinion. And so right there, you've got something kind of going against you for that. And within the video, Stephen also mentioned that the default fallback will be tab target if they can't get it right, or if it's basically their fallback, right? If all goes to heck in a hamster, then they're going to go back to a tab target system. Now, I do believe that some form of a hybrid can work. More specifically, an earlier iteration that they had described before, and that was, choosing X amount of skills that are either tab or either tab target or action combat. I think that more can work, right? That whole description can work because, you won't have a choice to use a skill as a tab or an action. It will either be a tab or an action skill, depending on, which iteration of the skill it is. And so I think that can work, but yeah, we'll see. That's kind of my thoughts around there. Where do I think I've said, and let me just say it one more time. I honestly think that the system will end up resembling Elder Scrolls Online. That's genuinely where I think the combat will end up and winds up. I've said this many times. We've talked about it in the Dungeon Crawler podcast. Yeah, that's where it's going to end up. All right. Let's see. Now, let's go on to the Q&A. There were a couple interesting Q&A questions that I found from it. One, the question was, will you be allowing add-ons? No, I still think that this is going to be a crucial under-the-radar question that is there. I understand their point for why they don't want to allow add-ons, but I think you can get away with no add-ons if your base systems are such that you don't need add-ons, right? You start to see games like World of Warcraft claw back on some of the systems of what it did because they started implementing their own systems to meet player demand for that. Games like Elder Scrolls Online, I can't imagine even using the auction house anymore without add-ons, without something to more clearly and easily use it. So those are just some things to keep in mind of it. Next question. In the aftermath of a siege, can only the attacker's defenders attack buildings, or can anyone come in and attack things? And the answer is that basically in the current design, what's going to happen is in the current design, anyone can go in and loot. I don't think that's going to work. I think that's just going to, we'll see when we actually go into it. I personally just don't think it's going to work, though. I think it's going to I think it's going to give sour grapes to people who do participate and actually help take down, a node or a siege, and you have some randos coming in who are just waiting to loot like vultures. Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it should only be the people who participated in and were able to take down the town, basically, or the node, basically. Next, does gear held in your bag lose durability when you die? No. Thank God. Thank God. I say that because I've been playing New World as well too heavily, and in there everything takes durability when you die, and it's just really annoying. Yeah, it's just really annoying. The next and the last question that I thought was interesting was, you mentioned in PvP you can identify classes by icons. Will each of the 64 classes have icons? And the answer was yes. Each of the 64 classes will have icons. And my brain just kind of exploded thinking, okay, I've got to memorize 64 different looks basically to understand what class that I'm dealing with. And it's going to be intense, but that's I am at the same time kind of excited for that as well too. So that's my opinions on this most recent live stream. Let me know what your guys' thoughts were. I'm especially curious about the action combat. Let's see where this goes. All right. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves. Have Alpha Soul out.